That voice, raw, soulful, and undeniably powerful, is the first thing that springs to mind when you hear the name Michael English. His delivery could be delicate one moment and absolutely thundering the next. His vocal runs packed with emotion. For years, he was a superstar in Southern gospel, contemporary Christian music, CCM, and as a lead voice in the legendary Gaither vocal band. But Michael's story isn't just about his amazing musical talent. It's also about a public failure, deep humiliation, an agonizing recovery, and a beautiful, unwavering grace. To understand Michael English is to grasp a man who's known both soaring praise and brutal condemnation, total liberation and crushing defeat, utter destruction and powerful reconstruction. His journey has inspired millions not because it was flawless, but because it was authentic. Occasionally, you encounter a voice that doesn't just sing to you, it stops you cold. It tugs at parts of your soul you didn't even know needed healing. For countless people in the gospel and modern Christian music world, Michael English was that voice. Gritty yet smooth, strong yet pleading, capable of soaring through the air one minute and crying out from the dust the next. Without a doubt, Michael English was anointed, not just another singer. Yet, he fell as quickly as he had risen. His decline in popularity was stunning to many. It was swift, very public, and utterly humiliating. In a world that often refuses to allow for imperfection, especially in ministry, Michael's personal failure was met with condemnation rather than compassion. The same crowds who had praised him earlier turned on him, but God did not. Michael's story isn't neat, tidy, or simple. It's messy, raw, and uncomfortable at times, but it's also profoundly human. It's proof that grace doesn't clock out when we mess up, and that failure isn't the finish line. This is a tale for anyone who has ever stood on a mountaintop and then plummeted into the valley. It's for everyone who has ever carried the crushing weight of shame and questioned if their voice, their mission, or their calling could ever be trusted again. It's for people who know what it's like to be rejected by others, but not by God. The valley was not where Michael English stayed. He nearly quit, but he persisted. He underwent a long, hard journey of healing. He rebuilt from the wreckage. He returned to the very stage where grace had called him, without trying to prove anything to anyone. This story is about more than just a vocalist. It's about a soul. It's about a redemption that whispers, "You're still mine," even in the face of public failure. It's about a comeback that doesn't need applause because it already has something better: mercy. So, if you're ready for more than just headlines, if you're hungry for a story of genuine restoration, and if you're fed up with cancel culture, then lean in. Michael English's tale is worth believing in, not just worth sharing. The voice that couldn't be ignored in the early days. Michael English was born in 1,962 inches, Kennonville, North Carolina, and grew up in a devout Pentecostal home. Music was his lifeline from an early age. Michael's voice was distinctive in church, and it quickly became clear he was more than just a singer. He joined the Southern gospel group, the Singing Americans, in the early 1982, and his powerful voice quickly gained national attention. But his career truly exploded when he joined Bill Gaither's Gaither vocal band in 1985. Michael's voice simply soared there. His passionate, soul-filled delivery was a huge factor in the instant success of songs like "I Bowed on My Knees" and "Cried Holy," and "No Other Name But Jesus." He brought a rare R&B texture to Southern gospel, which helped expand the group's sound and audience. Michael was the emotional focal point of GVB for about 10 years. He earned awards, booked churches, and was adored by his fans. He was a certified superstar in Christian music. However, success doesn't always equal stability. And behind the voice, Michael was struggling. The fall, disgrace, quietness, and disgrace. Michael English was at the height of his solo career in 1994. He had just released a chart-topping album and won Artist of the Year at the Dove Awards, Christian music's biggest night. But everything shattered in a matter of days. It was revealed that Michael had an affair with another Christian music performer outside of his marriage. The Christian music industry immediately retracted its support after elevating him to icon status. He was dropped by his record label. The concerts stopped. He went from being adored to being shamed overnight. This was an emotional and spiritual breakdown, in addition to a career setback. It would turn out to be one of the worst periods of Michael's life. He struggled with guilt, lost his sense of self-worth, and attempted to cope with the aftermath in a society that wasn't forgiving: isolation and addiction. Michael attempted to rebuild after the scandal, but grief and depression got in the way. He acknowledged becoming addicted to prescription pills in his memoirs. What started as medication for a back problem became a coping strategy for deeper wounds. This is arguably the most human aspect of his journey. The man behind the voice was suffering from rejection, remorse, and the gradual loss of his identity. Michael slipped out of the public eye for years. Every now and again, he would perform, but the joy was gone. The world had moved on. He had to restore his soul, not his profession. Honesty marked the beginning of the pivotal moment. Michael reconnected with his faith, went to rehab, and began therapy not as a show, but as a private surrender. He started talking candidly about his errors, not to justify them, but to reveal the brokenness that so many people hide beneath their success. He cautiously made his way back to the stage, this time as a wounded healer rather than a star. His voice, tempered by time and hardship, held even more passion. His message shifted from image to integrity, from perfection to grace. Michael was accepted back into the Gaither family in the late 2000s, albeit not with fanfare, but with forgiveness. Known for giving people second chances, Bill Gaither encouraged him to take part in Gaither homecoming events. It was emotional for the fans. It brought tears to many eyes to see Michael stand with his bandmates once more, especially as they sang songs like "I Believe in a Hill Called Mount Calvary," not just for the music, but also for the powerful message of redemption it conveyed. Subsequent career and legacy. Michael English has kept recording, touring, and telling his story in recent years. Songs like "Some People Change" and his worship music show a man who sings to testify rather than to impress. He frequently discusses the value of second chances, the perils of hubris, and the power of forgiveness. His concerts are full of ministry as well as music. He talks as much as he sings, sharing candidly how God never gave up on him, even when he gave up on himself. There is more to Michael English's legacy than just his voice. It has to do with restoration. He demonstrates that when grace intervenes, failure does not disqualify you. Grace that continues to sing with its high notes, fractured lyrics, and an unending chorus of mercy. Michael English's life is a gospel song unto itself. His narrative says, yes, to everybody who has ever failed, been condemned, or questioned whether they could be used again. You can still do it. His fall was made public. He was genuine when he broke. And when he came back, he was a damaged man who had been restored to wholeness rather than the golden boy. Witnessing a fallen voice rise is a sacred experience. Michael's return was modest rather than ostentatious. The focus was on testimony, not applause. He didn't return claiming his former position of prominence. He returned pleading to serve the unforsaken God. That's the gospel, isn't it? That our actions are not the worst things about us. That grace rewrites endings. That mercy endures, unlike shame. That God is an expert at getting singers back on stage, not to brag, but to exalt him. In Christ alone I place my trust, Michael once sung. Those words struck a different chord. After all, they are more than simply lyrics now. They're a matter of survival. They are the truth. They are everything. Even now, Michael English's singing has the depth that only brokenness can provide. It is audible in every note, not only suffering, but also atonement, hope, not just grief. Presence, not just performance. He is not Michael English from the 90 seconds. He's improved, not because he is more well-known, but rather because he is more obedient. Perhaps that is the lesson we should all learn. That failure need not be irreversible. That you may use your platform as a pulpit. That you can write songs about your scars. The affair may never be forgotten by Michael English, but he doesn't have to, because he is a real example of how grace triumphs over guilt. His talent was never in question, but his survival was. The intense pressure of being a Christian idol is a weight few can truly bear. The industry demands perfection from its stars, forgetting the fundamental truth of the message they sing. Everyone is flawed. Michael's sudden, spectacular downfall wasn't just a personal catastrophe. It was a mirror held up to the judgmental side of the Christian culture that built him up. It exposed the lie of super saints and revealed the cruelty of cancel culture decades before the term became mainstream. His experience was a lonely, terrifying trial, forcing him to confront who he was when the microphones were off and the applause died. The years in the wilderness were defined by a silent war with shame. He moved through the world, recognizing the faces of people who knew his face, the face of a man who failed publicly. This isolation fueled his deeper descent into addiction. The pills were a desperate attempt to quiet the relentless internal condemnation, a way to medicate the gaping wound left by the loss of his career, his status, and his identity. It was here, in the darkest corners of that addiction, that Michael English found his most profound truth. That God's grace pursues you, even to the point of self-destruction. The recovery wasn't a single come-to-Jesus moment, it was a grueling marathon of small, painful steps. It required surrendering his reputation, his pride, and the desperate need to be right in the eyes of others. He had to learn to forgive himself, a task often harder than forgiving those who had cast him out. This journey of radical self-acceptance and healing is the hidden chapter that makes his comeback so powerful. When he finally returned to the stage, it wasn't a triumphant spectacle. It was a humble, almost hesitant step back into the spotlight. The voice was still there, rich, resonant, and powerful, but now it carried a new resonance. It was the sound of a man who had walked through fire and emerged, not unscorched, but purified. His performance was no longer about hitting a high note. It was about hitting the heart of the matter. The reaction from the Gaither fans was a testament to the power of genuine forgiveness. Bill Gaither's decision to welcome him back was a masterclass in Christian leadership, prioritizing redemption over resentment. Those homecoming concerts, especially the moments when Michael sang about the cross, became emotional wells for thousands who saw their own failings reflected in his story, and their own hope reflected in his return. His later albums and concerts are a soundtrack to that restoration. They don't shy away from the hard lessons. They are permeated with a sense of worshipful gratitude, a thankfulness that comes only from being completely broken and then miraculously put back together. When Michael English sings now, he is effectively giving a testimony in every song. He shares how the pressures of fame almost destroyed him, how the idolization was a trap, and how the collapse was the catalyst for his most important spiritual growth. He uses the platform not to showcase his voice, but to showcase the unfailing character of God. This distinction, singer versus minister, is the core of his new legacy. He is no longer defined by the scandal of 1994, but by the unshakable resilience forged in the years that followed. He became the living proof that a call from God is irrevocable. Though he momentarily abandoned his post, the calling never abandoned him. He embodies the phrase, "He came back to stand where grace had brought him." There's no proving, no earning back. There's only serving the God who didn't let go. The final, essential message of the Michael English story is one of profound empathy. For anyone struggling with secret sin, public shame, or the feeling that they are unqualified to be used by God, his life is an open book of hope. He makes it clear that your scars are not marks of shame. They are maps of grace. They are the credentials that qualify you to minister to others who are hurting. He reminds us all that God uses broken vessels to pour out His love, because that way everyone knows the power comes from Him, not from the vessel. That powerful, enduring truth is the note he sings now, louder and clearer than any note he hit in his superstar days. He is the singer of the second chance, and his voice is the sound of a soul set free,